In this video, you will learn about ratios. Now, what is a ratio? Well, a ratio is simply a comparison of two or more numbers. With a ratio, you can write this in three different ways. So for example, let's say you had 7 red marbles and 12 blue marbles. And the question is, what is the ratio of red to blue marbles? So the ratio is just comparing the two numbers. So we have 7 red and 12 blue, so the ratio of red to blue would be 7 to 12. So I can state it with words as 7 to 12, or I can put a colon in between it, so 7 colon 12, or I can write this as a fraction, 7 over 12. Now let's look at some more examples. Here we are told that a college has 80 teachers and 3,000 students. Of the 3,000 students, 1,800 are boys and 1,200 are girls. So the first question along with this example is, what is the ratio of students to teachers? So the ratio is simply comparing the two numbers with students and with teachers. So there are 3,000 students and there are 80 teachers. So the ratio would be 3,000 to 80 or 3,000 over 80. That is the same thing. And then always reduce your ratios. So you can divide the top and the bottom both by 10 to get 300 over 8. And then I can divide the top and the bottom both by 4. So dividing the top by 4, I will get 75, and divide the bottom by 4, I get 2. So the ratio in simplified form would be 75 to 2. So what this means is that for every 75 students, there are 2 teachers. Example 2. Given the same illustration, what is the ratio of boys to girls? Well, there are 1,800 boys and 1,200 girls, so the ratio of boys to girls would be 1,800 to 1,200, or 1,800 over 1,200. I can then reduce my ratio, dividing the top and the bottom both by 100, and that's going to give me 18 over 12. And then I can take this further. I can divide the top and the bottom both by 6, which would give me 3 over 2. So what this means is that the ratio of boys to girls is 3 to 2, meaning that there are 3 boys for every 2 girls. A third example would be, what is the ratio of teachers to girls? So there are 80 teachers and 1,200 girls, so the ratio would be 80 over 1,200. And then reduce your ratio, divide the top and the bottom by 10. That gives me 8 over 120. So 8 over 120. And then divide the top and the bottom again by 4. And that's going to give me 2 over 30. So 2 over 30. Which can actually reduce further. Dividing the top and the bottom by 2, I get 1 over 15 as my ratio. So what that means is that for every 1 teacher, there are 15 girls. Here is another example, and this you see often in sports, where you are comparing the games won to the games lost. So here a volleyball team has won 9 games and lost 6 games. What is the ratio of games won to games lost? So we have won 9 and lost 6. So the ratio of games won to loss would be 9 to 6. That can be expressed as a fraction, 9 over 6, which can then be reduced by dividing the top and the bottom by 3, which would give me 3 over 2. Now be careful if you have 2 things you're comparing, but the units are not the same. So for example, if you are writing 2 hours to 15 minutes, you're writing this in simplest form. This is your ratio. Well, the units are not the same, so I need to make sure that I convert the units so that they are the same. So the ratio is 2 hours to 15 minutes, which can be written as 2 hours divided by 15 minutes. So I need to convert either minutes to hours or hours to minutes. Here it's going to be easier probably to convert hours into minutes. There are 60 minutes in 1 hour, so for 2 hours there'd be 2 times 60 or 120 minutes. So I have 120 minutes divided by 15 minutes, and that would give me 8 over 1. So the ratio of 2 hours to 15 minutes would be 8 to 1, which can be written as in this manner with 8 colon 1. So either way, you can write it as a fraction or with colons. You can interchange back and forth. But if you start with a colon, it's probably easier to convert into fraction form first. Here's another example. We have 8 inches to 6 feet. Once again, the units are not the same. So I need to convert either inches to feet or feet to inches. Converting feet to inches is probably the easiest to convert. So 6 feet, you can convert to inches by multiplying by 12, because 1 foot has 12 inches. So 6 times 12 would be 72 inches. So writing this as a fraction might be simpler in order to simplify. Here we can write this as 8 over 72, which you can divide the top and the bottom both by 8, which gives me 1 over 9. And if you want to write this back with the colon, you could, and that would be 1 colon 9. Here is another example. You have a poster that is 1 meter long and 40 centimeters wide. Find the ratio of width to the length. So in order to compare, to have the ratio, the units must be the same. So we have centimeters and meters. It will be probably easier to convert meters into centimeters, because 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. So the length is 100 centimeters and the width is 40 centimeters. So the ratio of length to width, width to length, you take the 40 first and then the 100 second. So you have 40 to 100, which can be written as a fraction, 40 over 100, which can reduce to become 4 over 10. So that can also be taken further. Divide top and bottom by 2. That's going to give me 2 over 5. So you can write it as a fraction, or you can write the ratio with a colon, where you have 2 colon 5. Either is fine, as long as you have the 2 first and then the 5 second. Next, we have a few more examples where we are to write in simplest form. So we have the expression 24 colon 32, and that is the same thing as 24 to 32, which you can think of as a fraction if you prefer. So sometimes it's helpful to write as a fraction just for the sake of simplifying, because with fractions we should know how to simplify a fraction. So here we can see we can divide the top and the bottom both by 8. 24 divided by 8 is 3, and 32 divided by 8 is 4. So the ratio is 3 to 4, which I can write back with the colon as 3 colon 4. Now we don't need to convert to a fraction in order to reduce, but for many people it could be more simple if you do convert to a fraction, because more people are familiar with fractions than they are with the other form. Next we have 35x to 30x. Now to simplify, we can again think of this as a fraction, and we can divide the top and the bottom both by a 5 and also by an x. So if you divide the top by a 5 and an x, we're left with 7, and the bottom, 30x divided by 5x, gives me 6. So that can reduce to become 7 over 6, which if you write back as in the other format, we would have 7 colon 6. Next we have 12x to the third times y over 9xy squared. Now to divide, we can simplify by taking the 12 and 9 and dividing both by a 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. X to the third divided by x to the first power. We have the same base, so we can subtract the exponents. So 3 minus 1 would give me x squared, and that goes in the top because we have x to the third is in the top, and that's a bigger number. And then looking at the y's, we have y to the first power over y squared. Because we're dividing, we can subtract the exponents, 2 minus 1, to get y to the first power. And that goes in the bottom because the 2 is bigger, and that is in the bottom. So my final answer would be 4x squared over 3y to the first power. Now ratios can also be useful for solving different word problems. For example, Jimmy plants soybeans and corn on 140 acres on his farm. If the ratio of soybeans to corn is 3 to 4, how many acres of each crop are planted? So using ratios, what I can do is I have a little technique where I take this ratio, 3 to 4, and put an x after it. So we have 3x and 4x. And the 3x corresponds to the soybeans, and the 4x corresponds to the corn. So for soybeans, we can let 3x represent the soybeans, and the corn, we can let 4x represent the corn. And we can do that because the ratio is 3 to 4. So here if we have 3x to 4x, okay, it doesn't matter what x is, that's still going to reduce to become 3 over 4. Now the question is, what is x? It's like, what do I need to multiply 3 by to get my amount of soybeans? So if soybeans is 3x, corn is 4x, I can add them together to get 140 total. All right, so 140 is my total. So 3x plus 4x equals 140. And then I can solve this. 3x plus 4x is 7x, and then divide both sides by 7, x would be 20. So looking back at the soybeans was 3 times x. So we have 3 times 20, which is going to be 60. And then corn is 4 times x. So we have 4 times 20, which is going to be 80. So there are 60 acres of soybeans and 80 acres of corn. And we can double check because if I add them together, I do get 140 acres, and the ratio of 60 to 80 would be 3 to 4. So therefore, we have the correct solution. One more example like this, but in the context of geometry. We are told that the measures of 3 angles of a triangle are in the ratio 2 to 2 to 5. Find the measure of each angle. So what I do is I put an x with each of these numbers. So I have 2x, 2x, and 5x. So angle 1 is 2x, angle 2 is the other 2x, and angle 3 would be the 5x. Now these are 3 angles of a triangle, and we know that with a triangle, all the angles add together to equal 180. So if I take the 2x plus 5x, that will equal 180. So I can solve this for x by combining like terms. 2x plus 5x would be 9x, and then divide both sides by 9, so then x would equal 20. So if x is 20, then angle 1 is 2 times that, which is 40. Angle 2 is also 2 times 20, which is 40. And angle 3 is 5 times 20, which is 100. So my 3 angles are 40, 40, and 100. And I can double check because they would add together to give me 180, and the ratio would be 2 to 2 to 5. So therefore, we do have the correct solution. And that concludes our lesson for today. We will see you next time.